The drone manufacturer Wingsland tried to enter the videography market with their folding brushless S6 drone, but it didn't quite go as planned, and be sure to see our reviews. They're now trying something a little bit different. It's called the X1, it's a racing drone, it's brushed, it's just over $100, and it's got optical flow. The X1 was sent to us for review by Hobby Wow, and links to it are in the video description, so do take a look as it's also currently on offer. Whilst you're watching this review, do comment below with your thoughts or questions and give us a thumbs up, and of course click subscribe, because we're almost at 5,000 subscribers, and that's only thanks to you and your support. So, sent to us from Hobby Wow, this is the Wingsland X1. Now, this is one of those manufacturers that have a slightly odd roadmap, and I'm not really sure, I think anyone's really sure, what they're going to be doing next, because they keep building these concept drones but never bringing them to manufacture. And you may remember the Wingsland S6, that was one of their only drones that actually made it to retail. The rest still seem to be in concept stage, but the X1 is real and it's here, woohoo! So priced at just over $100 or just over £100, this is basically a mini racing drone. It's compatible with their R6 transmitter as well, so you don't have to just control it via phone, but it's also controllable via Wi-Fi, so there is an app for it that you can download. It's presented really nicely as per usual Wingsland, and I've always been impressed at how they present their beautifully designed products. And there it is. So it's a tiny little quad. So there's the QX90 next to the X1, and you can see that the X1 is slightly bigger, so I'd say this is probably a 100 or 110 class in terms of size. But it's a really nice looking quad. Basically, it's a brushed quad, not brushless, so that's one thing to note, but hence the price, hence why it's so cheap. It's got a swiveling prop guard design, which I really like as well, because it means they swivel out of the way. The only issue there might be if you hit something, they might actually swivel and still hit the motor or the prop. But it's nice and compact for when you're storing it away. So if we just swivel all of those out, you get a true understanding of the size of this thing. So built really, really nicely, and Wingsland really do put a lot of effort into their design of products, even if they don't release them very often. The camera on the front is only 640 by 480, but it's just designed for FPV. Now remember, this is not for taking photos, it's not for taking high quality video. This is for fun and it's for racing. The camera also tilts up and down a few clicks, so you can have it pointing straight forward, or you can have it pointing up, which of course when you're racing you're going to be flying tilted forwards, so you need the camera swiveled slightly up so you can still see where you're going. On the top is a little antenna. Now this doesn't apparently have 5.8 gig FPV video, it just uses Wi-Fi, so that most likely is just a Wi-Fi antenna, but we will check to see if it's outputting any 5.8 gig video when we fire it up. Looking underneath now, here's the real surprise. That there is an optical flow sensor. You don't normally expect to see that on a racing quad, but I guess the idea is that if you're not familiar with racing, you're not perhaps going to be quite used to the speed at which these things travel. And so perhaps the concept here is that you can let go of the controls at any point and this drone will not drift, it's just going to hover on the spot. Now that's all good in theory, but you may remember the optical flow sensor on the Wingsland S6. It was terrible, it just didn't work. In fact, they disabled it after a while because they couldn't get the technology to work. So Wingsland, please, I hope you've got it right on the X1. Now also what's quite exciting is what looks to be an accessory port here, and also 2 tabs on either side. So I think there's more to come with this drone. I'm not quite sure what they're developing to attach to it, but we will soon see, I guess. On the back there is the battery, and that pulls out very easily, he says. On the back here is the battery, and that's released by pulling down this flap and then sliding the battery out like that. The battery's a 1-cell 600 milliamp, so quite a small battery there, only a 1S. However, we have seen the performance on these small brushed quads to be quite impressive despite quite a small battery and quite a good flight time normally, so it'll be interesting to see. You only seem to get 1 battery in the packet, I think, but we'll have a look in a minute just to tell. Now there's no power button on this, but apparently when the battery is fully charged, it will power up as soon as you put the battery in. And on the back, it's worth noting that there is a USB port. There's no separate charger for this quad. All you do is plug that into a USB power source and that charges up the battery. So quite nicely, you don't need to carry any other kit around with you. So let's have a quick look at what else comes in the box. I know I keep saying it, but Wingsland really do know how to present a good looking product. You've got this really nice premium phone in here, which you can also use, of course, to transport the quad. We've got a USB cable, which is used to charge the quad by plugging into the back of it, and of course into any USB power supply. Now they don't supply an actual transformer or a charger, probably because everybody's got one nowadays with other kit that they've got. There's an instruction manual there, a custom set of stickers as well, so you can actually pimp your X1 by applying these stickers as you require. And then in the very bottom of that case there are some spare props. Looks like we've got, let's see, 4 spare props. So yeah, not bad at all. Really nicely presented. I think what we'll do now is get the battery on charge and then power it up and see what the app looks like as well. Now, a quick note about charging the X1, and this had me a bit stumped at first. Push the battery in and it goes in nice and firmly and the clip pops up underneath, and so you assume that it's in. You then plug it into the USB port to charge it and the lights flash briefly, as it says in the instructions they should. They then flash rapidly and stop. And that's it. Now the lights are supposed to keep flashing whilst it's charging. This is due to the port that they've used internally within the X1, and it's not very good design. The battery, you need to really push in, and then the lights start flashing as if it's charging properly on the front. Now I really don't like that design. Wingsland don't have a great history with batteries, certainly based on the Wingsland S6. So if in doubt, if you're worried about your battery not working properly, just make sure you've really pushed it in properly and clicked it in place. We'll leave that now to charge, and in the meantime we'll get the app installed. So I'm using the Android platform here as usual, and I'm going to first of all open up the Play Store. Now the app is actually called Wingsland X1, so type in that and hit search, and there you go, you find it. Wow, a score of 5 out of 5. That's unusual, although it's only based on 2 votes. Now I don't think the X1 is in wide circulation yet, so probably this is one of the very first reviews of it. So we're going to click install and we're going to accept the permissions, and it needs very basic permissions there, just Wi-Fi connection and access to store photos and media. It's 32 meg in size and it's going to install now. We can just see from what's new that they've added intelligent rollover restrictions. That's probably to stop you flipping it beyond a certain point. A little bit like comparing Horizon mode with Acro mode on a proper racing quad. You can see the downloads have actually only been 50 of them. It was last updated on the 10th of October, which was quite some time ago. Wingsland aren't particularly great at keeping their apps up to date. But that's the app installed. I'm now going to click open. Got a bit of a first time use statement, some public safety information, battery usage information, blah, blah, blah. Yes, understood, and enter. And we're now in the app. Now this is a little bit Dobby-like, where you can see photos and media that other people have taken. Now, based on the fact that this has a 640 by 480 camera, it's highly unlikely that these pictures were taken with the X1, but we'll see, who knows. So here we go, we're in the app. We've got on the top left, we've got firmware update information, and also a tech support guide. Now we're not connected to the drone at the moment, so we're not going to be able to go and start to fly until we've connected to it via Wi-Fi. So we're going to wait for the drone to finish charging, and as soon as it's ready, we'll then get it connected up. Miserable grey day as usual, but this is going to be an interesting one with the Wingsland X1. So the first thing I'm going to do, remember this has no transmitter at the moment. There is an R1 transmitter available for it, but I don't have it. So the first thing to do is take the battery out. Now I don't like the fact that this doesn't have a power button. That's a bit annoying because it means this battery is not actually so easy to get out at all. Not a very good design that. Okay, battery's out. So you have to push the battery in to charge it, unplug the charger and then it stays off until you take the battery out and push it back in again, at which point it turns on and you know it's on with the blue flashing lights. The other indicator is on the bottom, the flashing green light, which tells us that it's emitting Wi-Fi. And we should see the wireless network for it, hopefully. There it is, Wingsland. There is a password for it, and the password is Wingsland, all in lowercase. So with that now connected, I'll open up the Wingsland app. Height changes your sight. Right, press start to fly, and there we go. So we've now got our live feed from the drone. You can see not a lot of latency there. So if I put the screen and camera on the same, so you can see both at the same time. Yeah, usual for Wi-Fi really, a couple of 100 milliseconds. Not too bad though, not too bad at all. So interesting as well, when you shake it, it detects that the aircraft is shaking and tells you on the app. It's quite interesting. Now it does say on the website that this is capable of flips and all other things, but I don't see any of that in the app, unfortunately. It looks like you've just got the basic controls. There is a high speed and a low speed, and I've set mine to high speed. Besides that, we've got palm takeoff, motion sensitivity, and obviously motion sensitivity is where you rock the phone to control the drone. That rhymes. But I'm going to leave it on as it is. This button on the left, I'm not too sure what that button is actually. But right, so we can take photos, and I'll just take a couple now just to demonstrate the quality of it. Take another one of the grass. And one over there. And we'll switch to video mode now as well, and I'll start the video recording. Remember, there's no SD card, so it's actually recording straight to the phone on this. So it's not going to be great quality, but we'll see. Now remember, the intention of this is drone racing, so I'm going to point the camera up a little bit because we're going to be in forward flight most of the time. Here we go. And I'm going to take off. So the controls on the screen are not shown, but you put your fingers on there and there they appear. So remember, it's got optical flow, so when I take off, it should hover on the spot. So quiet, this little thing. So let's give it a few seconds to stabilize. We're not going to get a lot of flight time out of this because it's a tiny battery, but it's dropping to the ground at the moment. I'm giving it up throttle to keep it up in the air. And let's see if it holds that now. Well, actually, I must say that's, for a Wingsland product, they've never been very good at optical flow. That's doing pretty good. What unfortunately is letting it down is the altitude hold. But that's doing pretty good. It's looks really nice. Very, very quiet. There's a light breeze here, but it's doing all right, I would say, actually. Not bad at all. So, I don't want to use too much of the battery. We are recording video, so I'm going to get a bit more altitude. And let's fly this thing around, see how it goes. So it's very, very subdued flight, very, very slow fly. We're on high speed mode at the moment, remember, as well. And it's just very, very docile. Now again, the altitude hold is a bit of a problem, I would say. And actually, okay, it's better. It seems to be stabilizing. It's very, very responsive. I've got both fingers on the display at the moment. And it's perfectly responding to both with the rudder and the pitch and the roll. Now let's have a look at flying it from the screen. Let's see how flyable that is. Now I'm not going to look at anything else but the screen. Let's see how easy or hard that is. So I can see me over there. So let's fly it towards me. Try not to hit myself. So actually it's doable. It's very, very, very slow though, as I said. I'm giving it full pitch at the moment and it doesn't seem to want to come over to me. Okay, it's getting there slowly but surely. Oh. But it, you know, bearing in mind this is only just over $100, and there is a little bit of a breeze actually. That's part of the reason why it's struggling to get back to me. But I would say in terms of sensitivity on the app, it could definitely do with a higher level again, because look at, there's hardly any tilt on there. So it's never really going to gain much speed. Let's see if we can go between these two trees. Might end up getting it stuck in the trees actually. So if I turn it around, we should see those trees. There they are. Oh no, oh no, 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 no. Okay, that was close. So let's try and get through the trees. There we go. Yay, we did it. Now, the live stream is pretty good as well. I'm not getting any breakup on there. It's such a subtle little flyer. Let's see if we can turn downwind and do a bit of a fast pass. It's really responsive for a Wi-Fi drone. Here we go. So, yeah, I mean, if you're looking to get into FPV, this gives you live video, and the video is pretty good, I would say. We'll have a look at the quality when we play it back. But also, for a phone-controlled drone, which are normally notoriously bad, this is very responsive. And we're getting a fairly good flight time as well. We've been flying so far for almost 4 minutes. And bearing in mind how tiny this battery is. Now, one thing I do need to do is test the failsafe. So this is if you lose Wi-Fi, and also the optical flow. So I'll let go now, and look at that, it auto brakes and just stops on the spot. That's really good. Let's do that again. So I'll fly it away, bring it a bit closer to me as well, and fly it back towards me, and I'll let go. You'll see when I let go of the controls. Come on. It's coming into wind now, so let go now. And it just stops there on the spot. Wingsland seem to have really perfected their altitude, their position hold, because the S6, it was terrible, but this one seems to be pretty good actually. I'm just going to stop video recording. Now, so failsafe, what I'm going to do is bring it down in altitude a little bit. I'm going to hold on to one of the motors here, turn off Wi-Fi and see what happens. So Wi-Fi's gone and the motors have cut. That's really good in terms of failsafe. So we've already been flying for about 4.5, 5 minutes. Let's see how much juice is left in there. We'll take off. Optical flow rigs works really, really nicely. So within here, let's have a look at the tilt control actually. So motion sensitive mode, here we go. So I'm tilting my phone now to control it, but it only works when you press the green button. So press the button and tilt your phone. There we go. And you've still got altitude control on the left stick. So as you can see, that works really, really well. I'm tilting my phone all over the place. Let's do a bit of let's do a wiggle, watch. There we go. So that works really well. And the nice thing about it is because it's got optical flow, as soon as you let go of that button, it just hovers on the spot really gently. So that's quite nice. We'll turn off that mode. The app tells us the height at the bottom. You can see 2.4 meters, vision positioning system. Flight time as well is indicated there, 1 minute 15. So the flight time on this is pretty immense, I would say. Really, really impressed. I just wish there was a higher speed mode because I'd like to fly this much quicker, but it's probably a balance of battery life and performance. I'm guessing that Wingsland have limited the sensitivity so that you get a nice long flight. Now let's do a bit of a range test. Let's take it down to over there. Now this is Wi-Fi, remember, so, and it's got no GPS, so it's not going to fly back to us. Now I can barely see it at the moment. You wouldn't really want to fly it much further away from there. But I'm flying on the FPV screen now, so I can see me, so I'm going to keep going backwards a little bit. See just how much range we can get. That's pretty impressive. As I say, it's quite a long way away now, and this is a tiny little drone. Still going further away. That's really good. Okay, now literally visually I can barely see it. So if you wanted to fly this FPV, you could have quite a bit of fun flying around obstacles. And again, it's holding its spot perfectly. And now we've got battery level is low. Please land as soon as possible. So let's fly it back to us. Here it comes. It's so quiet. It's a very smooth flyer. Looks like battery's gone. Okay, so it has actually auto landed. I'm quite impressed with that. I think what we'll do now is have a very quick flight of it indoors and then we'll get to the summary.
So time for a bit of an indoor test for the X1, and what I'm going to do this time is actually use the palm takeoff. So I'm going to slide out the slider, press palm takeoff, see what happens. It has optical flow, so in theory it should just sit there and hover after takeoff, but we will see. So press yes. Sorry, me being silly. It says double tap the flight interface. So basically double tap the screen to take off, I guess. Oh, yeah, there it goes. Now, I know I said this during the outdoor test, but they really have got the optical flow perfect on the X1, certainly compared to the S6. Look at that. That is barely moving, really. Very, very impressive. So I've turned it down to slow mode, but also look at that on-screen video. That is so steady. There's no EIS on this. It's not a photography drone. So let's fly it around and see what it's like indoors. Whoops. Now maybe I've got it set a bit too slow. Maybe slow mode is a bit too slow actually. But I think for most pilots it's going to be perfectly adequate indoors. So yeah, it's very subdued, very easy to use. Now, I wonder how we will do if we try and fly it via FPV. So what I'll do is I will fly it just using the screen. So I'm going to try and get through the doorway over there. Okay. In fact, I'm going to point the camera down because at the moment I've got the camera pointed. Okay, so the camera's now pointed downwards. So let's try and fly FPV through the house and see how far we get. So I'm going to go through the doorway, hopefully. Oh, there we go. We're in. Go into the other room. Yeah, we're in there. Now, the range is really good. I'm not getting any break up at the moment. Oh, going to try and rotate it around, yaw it. Let's have a look at it in the mirror. Okay, we're hitting the mirror at the moment. And again. Let's turn it around. Took it back through the doorway. Let's see if we can go up the stairs. Oh, no. Oh, no. Now, bearing in mind, I'm flying this entirely FPV at the moment. I don't know what we've hit. I think we've hit... Oh, no. Now, this is the only problem. The camera is quite zoomed in, so it's very hard to judge gaps and things like that. But, oh, we brought it back alive. And actually, we brought a bit of a plant with it. So yeah, indoors it's a very, very subtle, slow flyer. Now let's try, there's another bit of plant attached to it there. I'm going to try the motion mode now, tilt mode. So remember, we press and hold the green button and that makes it move. So, there we go. Wow, look how sensitive that is. Altitude hold is working really, really well here as well. And it's very, very responsive. Very easy to control. I must say, actually, if anything, that's probably easier to control than the regular control mode when you're flying indoors. Certainly for a beginner, that's really easy. Look at that, that's brilliant. Oh. And whilst you're doing that, you've still got control of yaw and throttle as well. So, yeah, indoors, very nice and easy to use. Great flight time again. We've got almost 5 minutes already. And that hover is just exceptional now. They've really, really mastered the optical flow, which is good to see finally. So let's get on to the summary.
So a pretty successful test flight overall. Let's run through the positives. The X1 has a really good flight time. It's around 7 to 8 minutes, which considering the tiny battery is pretty impressive. It's got good range and a low latency live feed despite connection via Wi-Fi. The build quality and presentation is really good, as expected from Wingsland. The optical flow works very well indoors and out, a massive improvement from the S6. It's very controllable with zero lag, despite the app interface, although an R6 transmitter is available. And the folding prop guards are a really nice feature, especially for beginners. Now, just a few negatives. I don't like the awkwardly and badly designed battery latch. The app does need a faster mode for advanced pilots, but hopefully that will come in the future with app updates. There's no on and off switch on the drone, which isn't ideal. And finally, the video and photo quality isn't particularly great, but this is a racing drone, so that's to be expected. Overall, it's a brilliant little drone considering the price, and when paired with the R6 transmitter, which is soon to hit the market, it'll be even better. Wingsland did a very good job with the X1, and it's a sign of positive things to come from this manufacturer. We hope that you enjoyed the review. Click that subscribe button now.